Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth podcast. I'm Jack Smith.
I'm Shrikar Rajendran. I'm Anish Gupta.
I'm Tyler Heminger.
I'm Mason Morgan.
So we have two fan pages joining us today, Jaguars Intel and Jags Nation. Find them both on Instagram. Do you guys want to start us off? Tell us a little about your page. Tyler, you want to go first?
Sure. I've been running my page since 2016, December time, and I've gotten to the point now where I'm really just posting videos that I make because that's what I'm going to be majoring in college at Florida State. So my page kind of helped me figure out what I wanted to major in college.
Nation,
How about you, Mason?
I've been running it since 2017 after the Bengals game. Great game. And, yeah, I didn't know it was going to get this big, so I just kept doing it. And now I'm here.
Yeah, so we're going to make sure we're linking both their pages down in the description. Make sure you go check them out. Give them a follow on Instagram. Shrikar, Why don't you start us, kind of tell us a little bit about what you thought of the Jaguars offseason?
Well, I mean, the Jaguars made two things clear this offseason. They're prepared for a complete rebuilding process, and I think they're comfortable with Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback for at least 2021. I mean, all offseason, the Jags were mentioned as a landing spot for quarterbacks in both free agency and the draft, but they did nothing that would indicate they don't believe in Gardner Minshew, who threw for 21 touchdowns and just 6 interceptions. I think the rebuilding process, or maybe like retooling, because I don't want to say rebuilding because retooling is kind of like a culture change. I think that process was most evident on defense. Of course, the Jags traded Calais Campbell for a 5th-round pick and A.J. Bouye for a 4th. The starting lineup doesn't have a single player over the age of 30, which is really interesting for me. And while the team was willing to deal a few veterans, they're still doing what they can to keep Yannick Ngakoue. Despite his desire to play elsewhere, they likely drafted his replacement in Calebon Chason, who will at least see reps as a pass rush specialist this season. The team spent 6 of its first 8 picks in the draft on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, the offense didn't receive as much of a shift in personnel, but it'll still look a little different. I mean, DJ Chark, very underrated in my opinion. He established himself as the unquestioned wide receiver 1 last season. Chris Conley, he was a fine deep threat. D.D. Westbrook, I think he served as the consistent underneath receiver, but I mean, he could be the most likely to lose reps to Laviska Shenault. And Shenault has first-round talent when he's healthy, and he is a yak star. The team was unable to find a partner for Leonard Fournette, so he is likely to be taking handoffs one more year. Tyler Eifert comes in as one of few veteran free agent signings and will be their starting tight end if he's healthy. Offensive line is all back, so that's looking good there. The top 5 most used linemen are projected to be the starters here, though it really wasn't pretty for them last season. But I'm interested to see what Mason and Tyler think about the Jags offseason.
Hey, I love it, man. I think we got weapons for Minshew. You know, Colin Johnson, don't sleep on him. I think he could be really good. We got Ben Barch. He could be good for us. Defense, Caleb, he's a stud. We got CJ, too, starting corner. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not going to be that good next year, but our future is looking really bright.
Tyler, do you agree?
Oh, boy. So TJ Henderson was a reach in my opinion. I wanted Jedrick Wills or a receiver because I felt like Jerry Jeudy was the best receiver in the class, and getting that for Minshew and giving Minshew his best shot as opposed to getting him a corner who's going to get destroyed in the run game, which is what teams will attack us for because we have no D tackles. And we're setting a 3-4 because Yan's not going to want to play for us, so he's going to hold out. He won't play. So we'll have Caleb and Josh Allen, who we have in the middle, our draft picks, basically. Devon Hamilton and then Tyson Alualu? Aaron Lynch?
Hey, we got Avery
That's
Jones.
a linebacker, bro.
It doesn't matter. We'll take bodies, okay? So they're just going to run the ball on us all game, and we drafted a corner who can't help at all in the run support. So what's the point of taking a cover corner if we're not going to have to cover people because they're just going to run it down our throat? We're in a division with Derrick Henry, who constantly goes for 300 yards against us and is a walking mixtape against the Jaguars. David Johnson and Carlos Hyde. Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor, who's probably the best back in the class.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
I think
It's gonna be
I think
awful.
that's an interesting kind of look at it because when people are sleeping on kind of teams during the offseason. I think the Jags had one of the busiest ones, right? So I think they kind of established, like Shrikar said, what they're trying to do. They're trying to rebuild. I actually liked what Gardner Minshew did. I believe he had a decent year for the games he played. I believe he was 4-3 he was doing well for a good part of the time. Yeah, but like initially I think it was like 4-3. I think until he lost in London. I can't remember which game that was kind of the turning point for him, but he went a good stretch without any turnovers. And I think that was really, really impressive, obviously, as a 6th-round draft pick and the whole Minshew Mania kind of thing. So I think when you look at this season, I think the Jags should stick with him, and I think they made the right decision in getting rid of Foles. I think you got under that contract, which is pretty good. And I think when you look at – so I actually like C.J. Henderson. I actually had him as my second-ranked corner in the class. But I do see your point about how they're not able to stop the run, right? I mean, they gave up Calais. They gave up AJ Boyer. They're going in a younger direction, and I think they're going in a similar way that the Dolphins did, except they're not getting the same amount of draft or same type of draft capital, but they're getting younger, right? Like Shrikar mentioned, I don't think they have a single player over like 30, and they're going younger, which is good to kind of start this whole rebuilding trend. Obviously, there's the whole tank for Trevor notion going on, but I think what they did with their pickups was really good. They didn't really spend too much. I think the only guy that they kind of stole from us was Joe Schobert. I was kind of sad about that. But it was a good signing. I mean, alongside Miles Jack, that could be a good kind of tandem. But like, I got a couple questions for you, Tyler and Mason. Like, what do you guys do you guys want if let's say Minshew actually does well, right? He has some weapons around him, Chenault included, right? There's some guys that that they have, right? Eifert, who knows? Finally, a change of scenery. He can stop getting that injury bug. Their offensive line is pretty inconsistent, but and for me, that's a huge factor in an offensive game. So, what do you guys kind of see like in terms of you guys? If Minshew does have a good game, is this whole tank for Trevor thing maybe it doesn't fall through? Like, what do you guys think what if Minshew kind of keeps up what he was doing last year?
I think he can be our franchise QB. If he has a good year, we don't need Trevor, I think he can be the future. But Tyler disagrees.
See, it depends. How good is good? Because I don't want to sit here and get into the same cycle we were stuck with Blake, where it was like, oh, well, he had more touchdowns than interceptions, and he got like almost 4,000 yards. Good quarterback, but at the same time, it was like a lot of Blake's touchdowns were in garbage time, and a lot of Blake's yards were in garbage time, and you consistently lost us games because he didn't know when to throw it away, and when he threw it away, he decided to throw it to the other team.
Well, if we want to kind of look back, right, that Jaguars team, obviously the Jags haven't had that good of a history. They've made it to the AFC Championship twice in their long tenure, and I think that 2017 run, man, that was something special. I think obviously that win against Buffalo, it just showed that they were a defensive-minded team. And I think that upset against the Steelers, I think I was telling you guys before the episode, right? I kind of saw that coming just because of what they were riding there. And, they had a lead on New England going into the fourth quarter, right? It was really good for Jags fans. And then obviously, you could argue that the Pats won it. You could argue that the Jags lost it. I saw a bit of both. Obviously, the game is kind of far-fetched from my memory now, but I think you can look at it both ways. But, ever since that year, they've kind of lost their quote-unquote identity, right? Ramsey started talking, and obviously he wasn't able to talk the talk. Like, he wasn't able to prove it. He just kept talking. His playing wasn't where his mouth was. There was a lot of kind of issues with the team. Obviously, with Blake Bortles, there was a lot of fans that were upset about him. So, but I think Minshew brought back a sort of spark, right? Like the Jags were doing decent. I believe they were at 4-4 during the season, right? And there was some hope that maybe Minshew can kind of turn this franchise around. After what was kind of considered a lost year last year. But I think when we look at the draft picks that they invest, like I actually thought they had one of the better drafts in the NFL. Actually, that was we had an episode a couple weeks ago, I think. It was like who had the best. It's not a couple days ago. It was like who had the best draft. My kind of top three were like Ravens, Jags, and There were Browns in there. I don't remember who I even picked, but I think I picked the Vikings. But the Jags had good 2 first-round picks, right? I like Chase on. I like C.J. Henderson. I think when we look at the Jags, it's just a big question of can Minshew step it up, right? And obviously, one of you says yes, one of you says no. But I think it all depends on, how they do against the AFC South. And obviously, their run defense is kind of subpar right now. But I think it all starts from, finding your quarterback, finding a consistent coach, and then getting your offensive line intact. And then I think you can just go from there.
Yeah, one thing we talked about a little bit before the episode was the possibility the Jags switch to a 3-4. Now that over the last couple of drafts, they've gotten the 2 edge rushers they needed that seem like 3-4 edge rushers. But the problem is moving to a 3-4 with the lack of defensive linemen that the Jaguars have could prove to be a problem. Do you guys want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, basically we have no 3-4 DNs anymore now that we've gotten rid of Calais. Because before we would run like a modified 3-4 where we'd put Yan at left outside and then Josh Allen at the other side. And then we'd have Yan and then Marcel Darius and then like Taven Bryan or another rotational guy. And it worked, except for we just couldn't stop the run because all of our linebackers were hurt or just backups. But now that we basically cleaned out that interior of the 3-4, and then we drafted K'Lavon Chaisson, it's like we want to be a 3-4, but we don't have the tools to make it work. So what are we going to do? Because people will literally just be like, they want to run a 3-4. Well, that's good for pass rushing, not so good for run stopping. And so they'll just run for 4 yards and get tackled by Schobert or Miles Jack basically every play.
Yeah, I think that you would say that the 3-4 linebacker room is kind of perfect with Chaisson, Allen, and then you move Jack to the inside with Schobert. But the problem is, like we've mentioned before, the D lineman. Mason, do you want to get into it a little bit?
Yeah, I agree with Tyler, man. We don't have enough D-line depth. I mean, we did sign a couple guys, but I don't think they're good enough.
I have a question for both of you. In your opinion, I know there's a lot of them, but what do you think is the biggest need or the biggest hole on the roster?
Safety. We need a guy next to Ron.
I'd say either safety or O-line.
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of look into it because, I mean, the Jags had a decent O-line when they were it's been consistent in terms of running, right? Like their run blocking is pretty decent. But actually, speaking of running, I think I wanted to touch on Leonard Fournette, the whole situation. So I think he posted something that it was like, oh, everyone's gone, I'm next, or something like that. Mm-hmm. So what are you guys' thoughts on the Leonard Fournette situation? Obviously, he comes in as the 4th overall pick at LSU, and he does pretty well. Made the Pro Bowl, I believe. Had some good seasons, right? 1,000-yard rusher his rookie year. Just a pure goal line back, right? Who just like he's a power back, right? And I think that really worked well during the 2017 season. Just give it to him, get out the way. Like he was a guy that was, I saw a lot of Frank Gore in him. And he'll have those games where he'll go for like I think against the Broncos this year, he went for like 225. Like he'll have those type of games. But now the time has come, right? These guys who were on that 2017 AFC Championship roster, a lot of them are fading away. And I think, do you guys think he's next? Do you guys think the Jags should keep him? What do you guys think they should do with him?
I think with Leonard, it's tricky because the reason he did so well in 2017 was because we had a complimentary back in TJ Yeldon and Corey Grant to help him so that teams couldn't just try and stop the run one way because basically we run power run schemes with Leonard as opposed to zone run schemes because that he's mainly a north-south runner. Mm-hmm. And so when we had TJ Yeldon, if we were in a certain set, they couldn't pick one way. They didn't know what to do. And so that's why blocking holes became open. And with Leonard, it's difficult to tell because I think he's a great player. I just don't think we utilize him properly. And I don't think our personnel really helps him because with Leonard, not this past season, but the season before when we still had Blake, basically his issue was that teams would just stack the box and be like, throw at us. And then we wouldn't. And instead we would run in with 6 blockers into 7 people. And it doesn't work. And that's what we did against the Patriots, and we lost in the AFC Championship game. And that's basically how teams beat us. And he can't do anything about that. But when he gets free, he makes it work. But he also has struggles for some reason last season of getting into the end zone.
Yeah.
Touchdown.
I think, sorry to kind of cut you off there, but like I think just with the quarterback situation with Jacksonville, right? Like I still go back to that 2017 run again. I think it's just one of the more magical ones we've had these past 5 years. Obviously, you can look to Tennessee. It's just the AFC South, man. Like the Colts upset Denver, I still remember as the 6th seed. I mean, you've had Jacksonville kind of go into Pittsburgh and win it. But yeah, going back to that game, right? You kind of brought up the point that I was about to make. Like the Steelers were actually kind of stacking the box, and they were daring Blake Bortles to throw that game, and he actually he pulled it off. I think he threw for 3 touchdowns that game. He had a really, really good game. I think they won like 45. Like they put a lot of points during that game. I don't remember the exact score.
It ended up being a closer game because the Steelers just came back in garbage time.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think it was a really, really high scoring game. But like that being said, Blake Bortles was able to beat them by throwing the ball. And I actually alluded to the Titans run earlier, like against Baltimore, right? Derrick Henry actually in the first half, the Ravens were stacking the ball. They were getting to Derrick Henry in the first half, and they were daring Tannehill to throw. And he got 2 touchdowns on him quick. And the Titans didn't look back. So I think I saw a similar pattern there with Jacksonville in 2017. I would kind of compare those 2 games a lot. But, I think you're right. Like AFC Championship 2017, fourth quarter, like the first 3, Blake Bortles was also slinging the ball. He was doing decent. And I think in the fourth quarter, he lost his touch. Like he wasn't able to really you could look to the amount of opportunities to throw that he had. He didn't get as many, but also I don't think he was as smart with the ball as he was the first 3 quarters. But I think I think Mason was kind of alluding to that he can be a franchise quarterback. What do you think? Do you think if Trevor Lawrence were to be drafted by you guys, do you think that would ignite this team? Or do you think maybe going for because I think the draft classes are only getting better. So do you think, like you said, a top tier safety, maybe trading back, getting a top tier safety and a top tier O-line, do you think those are the needs that you should address and try and help Minshew? Or again, kind of back to that question, is Trevor Lawrence really the savior, really the answer?
Hey, if we get Trevor, man, he will definitely ignite us. I mean, the dude's he's a beast, man. He's top. He's one of the best QBs we've seen coming into the draft in a while. So he can help us for sure. I don't think we should trade back for a safety. I don't think that's the right move. But yeah, Trevor, if he's there, we should take him.
I think one of the interesting points to note, too, we talked about it before, the Jaguars will have 2 first-round picks this year because I believe they still have the Rams pick. And the Rams, I mean, no one really knows what's going to happen with them this year. So the Jaguars could easily end up with 2 top 16, in the first half of the first-round picks this year. So
it could be top 10, honestly.
Yeah, they could easily grab, Trevor Lawrence and a top safety. I'm thinking maybe Javon Holland out of Oregon. So it could easily work out for them with that pick. So they might not have to trade down.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like if there was like a Jamal Adams type safety coming out, then I'd be like, sure, trade back if we feel like Minshew does well enough. But it would take – I feel like the only way that I'd be confident in Minshew going forward is if he does something crazy like take us to the playoffs.
Wow.
Which probably won't happen.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if he somehow does some Patrick Mahomes second year, Lamar Jackson second year type MVP turnaround, and hey, I'm not complaining. But unless something crazy like that happens, it's a talent thing. And like people talk about Minshew's arm strength, and while we do play in Florida and his arm strength isn't really the biggest need, we play half of our schedule not in Florida. So, and it's not even really, he can't get the ball downfield. It's he can't get it downfield quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not how far, and a lot of people have a misconception with that because they're like, Gardner Minshew doesn't have any arm strength. He does, but it's a different type of arm strength. He can get it far. He just can't get it there fast. So it's easier for defenders to react to it.
Mm-hmm. So would you say kind of like that, again, if you guys don't believe in Minshew, right, should the Jags pull a Cardinals and maybe trade him like the Cardinals did with Josh Rosen, right? Trade maybe Minshew. You can probably get maybe a third, maybe even a second, depending on how he plays next year. Do you think that would be the move?
It depends. Because if we can get Trevor Lawrence And if we have the number 1 overall pick and we can get Trevor Lawrence, yeah, get rid of him. I'd say trade him to the Raiders for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they'd take him. With his
I'm
personality.
curious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts on the wide receiver room in Jacksonville, especially with the Chenault pick? What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, Mason, you want to kind of get us started?
I really think we're one of the more underrated groups. We have Chark, Dede, Colin, LaVisca now, and Conley too. So we have veterans down there, and we have some young studs. So I think.
And you got Dede Westbrook too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's because on paper our receivers are really good, but if you go back and you watch the Jaguars games, half the time it was just Chark.
Yeah, I mean, Chark's really underrated though. I think he's really good.
But like literally, it got to the point where halfway through the season, once they put Foles back in, which is when our season just fell apart. Because Minshew was doing great. There's no need. And then they were just like, gotta put him in, and he loses 5 games. And then we're like, oh, well, now we should put the better quarterback in. Should have done that from the start.
Well, I mean, you're paying Nick Foles a lot of money now.
Exactly. I think it was just an obligation because you're paying him, 21 mil a year. I think it was just which is stupid. I think teams do fall into that trap. Like, you don't have to just ride the hot hand. In the NFL, I think that's the ultimate sport where you should ride the hot hand because, again, any given game, everything can fall apart, but in any given game, it can also take off, right? Mm-hmm. And you can easily ride. Like, I think, for example, I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but Derrick Henry, right? So I still remember, like, a lot of people in the beginning of the year were very skeptical about Derrick Henry. I know Jack was included in that list, but what I told them was, look at the last 4 games of the 2 years prior, right? So I think he had like 500 plus yards in those final 4 games, and I think it all started, unfortunately, against the Jags when he ran for 238, right, and like 4 touchdowns. As soon as I saw that game, I was like, okay, this dude should be picked up in every fantasy league. This dude's got some potential, and he carried it out throughout, right? Obviously, there were people who were like, oh, he could be. I'm blanking on his name. Remember that one Patriots running back that had like 4 touchdowns in one game or something like that? No, I think it was I forget. It was like number 35. I think it was Jonas Gray. He had like 4 touchdowns this one game and like 196 yards. Everyone was kind of going on after him. Never did anything valuable in the NFL again. But Derrick Henry continued it right for 4 games. And I think in the NFL, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I think Minshew was carrying on kind of similar to what Derrick Henry had. Obviously, it's weird to compare a running back to a quarterback, but kind of like what Derrick Henry was able to do, right? He had a turning point because the first 10 games, he was doing terrible. I still remember people were like, oh, should Deion Lewis be their main back? Comes out of nowhere, this 4 touchdown game. And that just changes the whole course of his career. Now people are saying he's potentially a top 2 running back, right, alongside Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. So I think the whole riding the hot hand thing should easily be executed in every team in the NFL, no matter what position, and especially quarterback. I think we've seen so many quarterbacks that come in, right, and take the load and just, never look back. We've seen it with Aaron Rodgers. We've seen it with Tom Brady. They come in over these guys and simply just, run with the opportunities that they're given. And I think Minshew easily capitalized what he was given. And I think, like you were alluding to, Tyler, I was very shocked about why they chose Nick Foles.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys want to get into some awards predictions?
Get it. Yeah.
So pretty much what we've been doing recently is we give predictions for offensive and defensive player of the year for the Jags, same with rookies, and then a final comeback player of the year. This could be either someone who, didn't have a great season last year or was maybe injured that you expect to perform a little bit better than last year. So Mason, Tyler, do one of y'all want to start?
Do you want to go first?
You got it, man.
Oh, okay. I think that Chark is definitely going to probably get off it. I'm going to give him offensive player of the year just because everyone's going to be still focusing on Leonard because I don't think the league defensive coordinators really respect Minshew enough to not stack the box. So they're just going to dare him to throw it, and Chark's going to take advantage of that. Defensive-wise, I think it'll either be I think I'm going to give it to Miles Jack because he's getting put back at his normal position because he wasn't used to being a Mike linebacker. He did his best work when he was at a Will or a Sam. And so that's where he's going to be playing this year in our hypothetical 3-4, and I think he'll do well there. For our rookies, I think on defense, it'll probably be Chase on over Henderson because I feel like it takes a second for most corners in the NFL, even rookies. Like, it's very rare when a rookie corner comes in and just shuts down everybody. In recent history, it's been like Jalen and Patrick Peterson that have came in and just shut people down
Exactly.
out of nowhere. And so I think it'll take a year for Henderson to get his weight up and all that to get up to speed with these NFL wide receivers. And then offensive rookie of the year, I think it probably will end up being Chenault.
Agree.
Mason?
All right. Offense player of the year, I got Chark. No explanation needed there. Defensive, I got Josh. Stud. Him and Caleb on going to be crazy. I agree with Tyler, though. Miles will be a lot better in his natural position now. So I have him winning comeback player of the year. Offensive rookie, I got LaVisca as well. And defensive rookie, I have Caleb on.
Tyler, before we kind of move on to us, do you want to give your comeback player of the year?
Oh, I forgot. I think – so I'm a homer. So for those who don't know, Jawan Taylor went to my high school. So I'm going to give it to him because he is really good and not a lot of people talk about him. And he was a steal in the draft last year in the second round. I thought we were going to get him with the pick that we got Josh Allen at. And we ended up getting him in the second round. And he went up consistently against top-tier pass rushers like J.J. Watt. And for the large majority of the time, Minshew was protected from the right side.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked about him when we redrafted the 2019 NFL draft, and all had him going way higher than he was taken. Obviously, a little bit surprising. Anish, do you want to give your award predictions?
Yeah, sure. So offensive play, I think you guys kind of stole what I was gonna say. People are sleeping on DJ Chark. This dude's got talent. He's got raw talent, and I think he's learning to kind of put it all together. He can easily become a number one receiver. I think when I look back, me and my friends were actually kind of doing a top 15 wide receiver kind of ranking. I had Chark right outside the top 15 alongside guys like Cooper Kupp, right? Like, I think he can become a top 15 receiver, maybe even top 10. It really depends on how his projection goes. So I see him being the offensive player of the year. Defensive player of the year, I don't know how no one's brought this up yet, but I mean, it really sucks to not see him in a Browns uniform, but I got to go with Joe Schobert. This dude, like, when I've watched him, like, he's a leader on defense, right? And he seems invested in the Jags culture. He even took a shot at our team. There was this whole post saying that he was finally going to win with the team or with the Jags or make him a winner. There was a whole kind of thing going on there. So I miss Schobert, but I know like you guys are going to love him. He's a fan favorite at least from the Browns fan base. And seeing him go sucks. But this dude is a tackling machine. He's a very, very good linebacker in pass coverage. So I think he can easily become the defensive player of the year. For the rookies, I think it goes Chenault and Chase on. I think Tyler alluded to it perfectly. I think Henderson, I'm a huge fan of his game. I just think he needs time to develop. I think Okudah was the only pro-ready cornerback in this class that can go in right away. Obviously, watching his games at Ohio State, I've seen that he can just go in an island. But I think Henderson needs time to kind of develop into what could be a Jalen Ramsey, what could be an AJ Boye. Obviously, Jags fans are hopeful that can be the case. But I think Chase on alongside with guys like Josh Allen, if Yannick Ngakoue still plays, or Yannick Ngakoue, sorry, I can't even pronounce his name. But I think if he's playing on that D-line with them, he's going to get a lot of single teams. And he's got a lot of raw talent coming out of LSU, I believe. And I think he can easily rack up eight plus sacks. And I don't think I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. So most improved, I think I'm going to go with Miles Jack. So I think you guys were alluding to, he's playing in his natural position. I think he's going to get a lot more, feel for the game now. I think he's been in the league a couple years, so I think he can easily come back and become, a top tier linebacker. Shrikar, your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. So my offensive player of the year, like you all just said, you hit it on the nail. DJ Chark. That guy is severely underrated. He is the unquestioned wide receiver one, as I said before. And I think he's going to benefit from having more receivers around him. My defensive player of the year, I'm going to go with Josh Allen. I
truly believe that he can lead the league in sacks this season. Like, it's a very unpopular take, but I think he can do it. Especially if Ngakoue plays. Not that many offenses are going to key in on him. So I mean, I think he could lead the league in sacks, but I mean, it's really on Ngakoue, because I think that's the deciding factor there. My offensive rookie of the year, I'm going to go with Laviska Shenault. I think he will lose, or not lose. I think Dede Westbrook will lose reps to Laviska. If any of the Jags receivers are going to lose reps to him, it's going to be Dede. I think he can be a star in this offense. I'm excited to see all those yards after catch and what Jacksonville has in store for him. If they use him like they did in college, then he's going to be a budding star. My defensive rookie of the year, obviously between Chason and Henderson, I'm going to go Caleb Chason. Having him next to Allen, that's really going to help him there. And then my comeback player of the year, I'm probably going to go Miles Jack. And I think he hasn't even reached his full potential yet, so I'm going to go with him.
Mm-hmm.
See, now I can't really go Chark now that 4 of you guys said it. So
Hey, just a quick note. Chark is also only 23. So, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't want to make it 5 for 5 with Chark. I'm going to go with Gardner Minshew. It's a little bit of a bold pick, but I want to see him be able to come back and be that second-year quarterback. There's always one every year where one second-year quarterback excels. Hoping it's Gardner Minshew. He's going to be my pick. Shrikar, I'm with you on Josh Allen, to be completely honest. I think that I was upset when the Jets kind of passed on him at pick 3 last year in the draft, and I think that he'll become one of the league's premier edge rushers, and he'll prove it this season. Rookies kind of got to go with the same thing. I think that I agree with Tyler that Henderson, it'll take a year or two, which is why I wasn't a big fan of picking him at pick 9. I think that you want a little bit of a higher impact player at pick 9. And then Laviska Shenault, I've seen him play a lot at Colorado in the Pac-12, and when he's on the field, he was one of the best weapons in college football. So if he can stay on the field, I think that he'll be a great receiver for the Jags. And as much as it pains me to say it, because he's one of my least favorite football players of all time, I'm going to give comeback player of the year to Miles Jack. I think that he hasn't reached his full potential, and he'll come back this season and prove that he is among the top middle linebackers in the league. Kind of the final thing to wrap it up, do you guys want to start us off, Tyler and Mason, on the record predictions for the Jacksonville Jaguars this year?
Give like a floor and like a ceiling, realistic predictions. Where do you guys see it?
Floor, I think, is honestly probably 0-16 or 1-15. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not. I think ceiling 6-10.
All right. My floor, 3-13. I have more confidence than Tyler. I'm a good fan.
Tyler really wants that first overall pick.
Yeah, tank for Trevor, baby.
And then ceiling 7-9 as well.
What are you guys' realistic predictions?
Oh yeah.
3-13.
3-13, Mason.
4-12.
4-12. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we probably beat Cincinnati and then split with a division person and then get 2 upsets. Maybe.
Yeah, so looking at the schedule, I mean, the Jaguars have the easiest schedule of any AFC South team, but, I mean, that's about the extent of the goodness for them this year. Yeah, I mean, they traded a number of veterans in the offseason, like we said before, Nick Foles, A.J. Bouye, Calais Campbell. They would have shipped out Leonard Fournette had they found a take or two. It is a curious strategy, as neither Doug Marrone nor Dave Caldwell appear to have the job security to survive the Jaguars bottoming out this year. Make no mistake, that's what will happen. I mean, the Jaguars are in the mix to finish with the worst record in the NFL this year. I'm going to agree with you, Mason. I'm going to go 4-12.
Okay, so when I look at the Jags, I mean, it's really hard for me to say that a team will do really, really bad, because I do have faith in Gardner Minshew, like I kind of alluded to earlier, kind of like what Mason was saying. But that being said, I think my ceiling is, since they do have a decent schedule, I think my ceiling is actually 7-9 as well.
maybe even 8-8. Like that's a high ceiling. Like we're talking like 12 feet ceiling. But like, I mean, I think it is reachable depending on Minshew's development, right? Like we've seen quarterbacks take teams pretty far. Obviously, we're not saying Minshew's like Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, like Tyler was hoping for, but maybe like it could happen, right? So I think that's my ceiling for them. My floor is a solid 2-14 because I'm looking at their schedule here. I don't think they're favored in a single game. I think Fox Bet does not have them favored in a single game. Maybe the Dolphins, but like I like the Dolphins this year. I think they've done a lot to kind of get better. But like you said, I do see them pulling off a couple upsets because that's just how the NFL works. Just please upset the Steelers, Ravens, and Bengals. If you can do that, that would be great. I would be very happy with that. So yeah, I feel like they'll upset a couple teams. I feel like they'll maybe go better than 2-4 in the division. I see them winning at least 2 games in the division. So I'm gonna go with 4-12, maybe 5-11. I think I'll cap it at that. But yeah, that's kind of what I see here. Is that enough for the first overall pick? Years past, it has been, but like last 5 years, it's looking like 2-14 is kind of your lock. But I mean, I can really I don't think Minshew wants to go in, with his mustache and go in thinking, oh, I want to lose all these games. Like, no, he's gonna try and win them. So we're gonna see some upsets this year, but I think 4-12, 5-11 is a realistic kind of scenario.
Yeah, as much as they may try and win a bunch of games, I'm not exactly sure how easy that's going to be. Judging based off just what they have, I'm not sure it's enough. There's a lot of teams that I've said have been in the running for the first pick, specifically 3. I think it's the Panthers, the Lions, and the Jags. So floor, I'm going to say
Jets too or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
Tyler, I mean, I know you'd like having the first pick, but that's where I see their floor, to be completely honest. And I know a lot of Jags fans wouldn't complain about that. So I think realistically, I'm going to go 4-12, but I mean, they can be even worse than that. I think Minshew could win them a couple more games. I see the ceiling at 6 wins around there, but the Jags, they're going to be better in the future, but the fans are just going to have to go through kind of the struggle for maybe a year or 2 more. But, Mason and Tyler, thank you so much for coming on this episode. We loved having you on. Great to hear from Jags fans. This is one in a long line of episodes bringing fans on of all the teams in the league. Make sure to subscribe and like down below so you can see when we have more content.
Check their links down below as well.
We're going to have both of their Instagrams down in the description. So thank you guys so much for coming on, and we'll see you next time.